television, radio, billboards. Those are all great ways to go, direct mail, all of that. But they're expensive. And
Yes.
social media can be very inexpensive or relatively inexpensive. I mean,
Right.
clearly it isn't free. You're gonna buy your customer. You're gonna certainly have to pay money to get in front of your customers, but it does give you an opportunity to be very, very precise about who you want to go after and what you want to tell them. My recommendation in using social media is make sure that you're not just selling stuff. You can't just be broadcasting. You actually have to start a communication with the customer you're talking to and get them to talk back to you. It's really important. The other thing that's important is to make sure that it's emotional.
It's emotional. Oh, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. Human beings are emotional creatures. We like each other. We want to communicate with each other, and it's an emotional experience. The other thing we tell people is to talk to women. Men pretty much go wherever women go. Men, I mean, men try to, we act like we're sort of running the show, but the fact is we're not. We might be the head, but the neck is controlled by women, and they're pretty much turn us wherever we want. They want us to go. So we have to be really careful with that. And we want women to be interested because they're making decisions about what they're going to do.
Hi everyone, good morning. Welcome to the new episode of Sattviko Talks. Today we have with us Mr. Mark Laux from the United States. Hi Mark, good morning.
Hello, how are you?
All well, how are you?
I am damn near perfect today.
Awesome, yeah. Good to see you again.
Yeah, you too. Yeah.
Hope all is well at your home?
I am at my home office today, yes.
So Mark is the managing partner at the Laux agency for 35 years now, which represents a number of nationally recognized brands in the US. It is an organization which helps in marketing consulting, sales management, brand development, and a lot more activities beyond that, which of course Mark will let us know during the conversation. So anything and everything about food and Mark can help you sell. His profile also says that if you sell food, he can help. So Mark has helped a lot of food brands flourish from the initial years of the company. He completed his bachelor's of fine arts and then a course into sales and marketing from University of Madison. So really appreciate you coming here, Mark. Thank you so much for joining in.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. Appreciate it.
Awesome. So, Mark, since you have a great, until now you have been into digital marketing, brand development, and all. So, if you can quickly tell us about the Laux agency and hot operator and how does it help the food brands?
Okay, sure. Well, we started the business as a general practitioner. So we worked with lots of different companies with marketing and advertising. And we started working with a company that was fairly small. They were about $1 million in sales, and they grew very rapidly in the food industry called Anchor Food Products. And we were with them for quite a while. And they grew to be about 550 million when they sold the business. And so we worked with them the entire time. And that got us it got us a good reputation in the industry. And so there were a lot of companies who came and, calling and saying, hey, could you help us with our business? We started Hot Operator as a subset of our company because we had introduced a product called stuffed jalapeno poppers. I don't know if you've ever heard of those. It's a jalapeno that's stuffed with cream cheese, breaded and fried. And we were having trouble selling them. So we developed this Hot Operator as a way to help restaurant operators position them on the menus properly and set them up to sell. And it worked very well. It became a very substantial brand. As we were doing that, we started working with restaurant operators to help them with their businesses as well. So we do a lot of work with the menu development, new product development, that kind of thing with the Hot Operator. So that's essentially what the companies are. And now we just focus on food businesses. Our go-to-market strategy here at this company is to work with evolving companies that are somewhere between 3 and 50 million or 100 million in sales and grow them to be pretty substantial. So we become what we like to call it is contemporary guerrilla marketing. So we teach companies how to introduce themselves to a market that is very well established, where there are lots of really large companies who do not want you to get off the ground. We like to disrupt things. So we show companies like, smaller companies are trying to introduce themselves. Mhm.
So, I mean, you have been into this business for almost 4 decades now, and
Uh-huh.
have seen that era as well, wherein, of course, digital marketing was not that strong, and of course, now digital marketing is of course the hot topic, and which is pretty much required. So, if you can take us through the shift which has happened in the brand development post digital era, and now what we are experiencing.
Sure. Well, digital marketing or social media marketing is a tool that we use, of course. It's like any other tool. It's a way to communicate. The difference is that there's a two-way communication now. There's a communication from the customer back to us, so we can actually hear directly from them. It's really important to keep in mind that as we are listening to people talk back to us, we have to make sure that they're not just crabby people, that they're not just angry or something like that. So you have to sort of filter it all out. But I think social media, from our perspective, we love it because it gives us direct contact and it gives us a bigger and easier, inexpensive way to get to a lot of people. Television, radio, billboards, those are all great ways to go, direct mail, all of that. But they're expensive. And
Yes.
social media can be very inexpensive or relatively inexpensive. I mean,
Right.
clearly it isn't free. You're gonna buy your customer. You're gonna certainly have to pay money to get in front of your customers, but it does give you an opportunity to be very, very precise about who you want to go after and what you want to tell them. My recommendation in using social media is make sure that you're not just selling stuff. You can't just be broadcasting. You actually have to start a communication with the customer you're talking to and get them to talk back to you. It's really important. The other thing that's important is to make sure that it's emotional.
It's emotional. Oh, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. Human beings are emotional creatures. We like each other. We want to communicate with each other, and it's an emotional experience. The other thing we tell people is to talk to women. Men pretty much go wherever women go. Men, I mean, men try to, we act like we're sort of running the show, but the fact is we're not. We might be the head, but the neck is controlled by women, and they're pretty much turn us wherever we want. They want us to go. So we have to be really careful with that. And we want women to be interested because they're making decisions about what they're going to eat, where they're going to go, what they're going to do, that kind of stuff. So it's really important. Yeah, it's a good program. I mean, I like social media. It's excellent. I know that there are a lot of talks right now, especially in this country, about Facebook and how they, use their algorithms and that sort of thing. But from their standpoint, and I think we need to step back and look at it really carefully, from their standpoint, they're just doing what they're supposed to do, and that is to get more people to be involved in their program. It is our role as marketers and as consumers to pick and choose what we want to look at and how we want to approach things. You just have to really be careful with your brand there. Make sense? So you don't want to be associated with the wrong things, because if you get some tarnish on your brand, it can really hurt you.
So a very specific thing across food business from the digital marketing's perspective. So for a food brand, I mean, what are those 3 important points which digital marketing can really help the food brand? Okay,
well, the first most important thing is that food is a sensual item. It is something that you eat, you put it in your body. And so with the right photography and the right positioning and product position, you can make it look really good. And it's really important that it does. What we like to say here is if it doesn't look good enough to eat, don't show it to anyone. So photography is extremely important. What you say about the food is also important. But the other thing that's important is you can introduce a brand to a lot of people very quickly and create demand. Now, having said that, you have to have distribution, because the last thing you want to do is get somebody interested in your product and not be able to sell them something. Yeah. So you have to make sure that it's available. And Amazon can certainly make that really easy. You can get something to sell there very quickly. So that can be pretty easy there. But having the product available in a wider range, Amazon is just one tiny part of the entire network. So it's really important to use social media to reach your customer, but only when you have a place for them to go buy it. Makes sense?
Absolutely. Awesome. So coming down to my next question. So if I look at, the overall marketing strategy of a brand, what are those important factors which a brand should consider while designing their digital marketing strategy?
Okay, so we here at my company at the Laux agency and Hot Operator follow the 10 commandments of branding, which we call it here.
Okay.
So the first one is a great brand is forever. And what that means is it can last for a very long time. If you look at some of the oldest brands in the world, you know that they've been around for a long time. Mercedes-Benz, good example of a brand that's lasted a really long time. Harley Davidson here in Wisconsin, very, very solid brand, can last a long time. Having said that, you have to take care of the brand. You've got to make sure that it's being managed properly. A great brand knows itself. It is really important that the brand understand who it is and who it's marketed towards.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just, I always put it this way, if let's say I was going to come up with a new line of dairy products, goat milk, cheese, those kinds of things. And I said, I'm going to call it Budweiser. Doesn't work, right? See, it's off brand, doesn't make any sense. So you have to make sure that you understand who you are.
Good one.
A new brand needs to invent or reinvent a category. Somebody from we were working with a group in Chicago, and I was talking to the marketing director there once, and he said something that really stuck with me, and I think it's really important for us to remember. And that is consumers or people, they know what they want to eat, but they already know they like in a new way.
Yeah.
So we already know we like certain things, like we all know we like chocolate, it's good. So if you can invent a new way to have chocolate, that'd be interesting for people, and they're really excited about that. So you have to reinvent a category. It's really important to do that. You have to tap emotions. We talked about that before, but if you're not tapping an emotion, the worst thing that can happen is your brand is boring, because no one cares. And if that happens, you're not going to sell much. The other thing to keep in mind is that a great brand is a story that's never completely told. And it is a story. So the big thing that we promote here is getting your backstory right. That is having a person, a personality, something that can attract people, especially women, to pay attention to it and get connected emotionally to it. So it's really important to do that. So your story has to be told. Your brand has to have design consistency and a voice consistency. So when you start introducing it to a market, you have to use the same voice over and over again and have the same look. Now that can evolve over time, but but you can't just herky-jerky change it to do that. And then you have to be relevant. There needs to be some relevance to your brand and the consumer that you're talking about. Like if you're going to sell to people who do yoga, make sure that your brand fits them and it makes sense, right? If you're going to sell a brand at a bar or a restaurant, make sure the brand fits there. You don't want something in a bar that that doesn't make any sense to somebody there. And then it has to have a point of difference. This goes back to Ross or Reeves, the unique selling proposition. What makes me interesting or different or special? So Coca-Cola, the way they put it is special, different, better. So you have to describe that. And keep in mind that everything that we do as marketers is to elevate the value of our brand. Now, value, when you think about value, the first thing most people think about is price, right? It's price, value, it's cheap. That's not right. Value is where price and function are really close together, and you can move those up and down on the scale together, but you can't separate them. As an example, back to the Mercedes-Benz. Let's say I said to you, I've got a brand new Mercedes-Benz, beautiful, right? $300 American. What are you going to think? Can't be, right? There's something wrong with it.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
Yeah, exactly. So what's happened there is the function of that product, the Mercedes, that's a good brand, $300, no way, right? Now, what if I said conversely? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And what if I said conversely? I've got a 1982 Toyota Corolla with 250,000 kilometers on it. And I want 38,000 American dollars for that. What are you thinking?
No we just laugh. Yeah.
We have to be able to support what we're saying. In other words, that's what the brand does. And we do that because people love stories.
Yes.
When you
Well
go to a
said.
movie theater, what do you get? You get a story,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
That's what you're getting. That's what you're buying. And that story, if it's a bad story, you get angry, right? You're like, oh, I
Yeah.
just paid all this
It
money.
was
I didn't
waste
get a
of
good
money.
story.
Yeah.
Exactly. But if you go there and you get lost in the story, you really get involved with it, you actually start thinking those characters are real. And
Yes.
that's the illusion that we're looking for. Make sense?
Absolutely. Really like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Got it. So
Well,
I have a personal question for you, Mark. So
uh-oh.
if I were to ask you your two personal goals going forward, so what would they be? Maybe which you want to achieve in maybe next 1 year or maybe 2 years or so.
Uh-huh. Well, um, that's a really interesting question. It's a really hard question to answer because now you're asking something very personal. So I'm a very spiritual person. So for me, that goal, of course, is the ancient feeling of peace that you get with the God love experience. Now
Nice.
I'm not sure how you would look at that, but
We really
uh,
appreciate this. I
yeah.
call.
So when you talk about yoga, I actually am a deep meditator. I spend a lot of time meditating,
Wow.
and if you do meditate long enough, and actually, I had an opportunity to meditate for a while with the Babaji Haridas in California, and he used to say all the time, or he didn't say because he didn't speak, but he would write in his little chalkboard, and he would say, yoga is just so you can sit for a really long time and not move, right? And just
Absolutely.
meditate,
Absolutely. Oh
right?
yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So every once in a while, and I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but you get to this place where there's like, oh, what was that? I just suddenly my ego was gone and I was in that moment of complete bliss. And that's what I'm looking for. So if you're asking me for what my goal is to have that experience, to be living the happy dream that way from a spiritual standpoint. And I think if we can do that, we can generate a great deal of love around the world. That's my
Awesome.
interest. And so I have a podcast called Ancient Feelings of Peace,
Oh, is
which are
it?
guided. Yes, and it's guided meditations for people. And I just started it, but it's an opportunity for people to listen to these guided meditations and start to rethink their brain and to rethink how they look at things. Make sense? So that's my goal.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
This sounds really interesting. Of course, I mean we can have a conversation on this sometime later. And
sure. I'd love to.
since we
Absolutely.
as a brand are also, of course, so we practice yoga and meditation. Of course, is an important aspect. So really happy to have a conversation around guided meditation.
Absolutely. You
Sounds really
bet.
interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah. Uh-huh. Great. So
Lovely.
I hope that helps answer your question.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
probably not what you were looking for. I imagine you're looking for, I want to grow to be this big or that big, but you get to a place where you think it's not about the money. It's really about something else.
Well said.
It's about
Absolutely.
peace, right? Inner peace. That's what we're
Yes.
looking for. Right. So,
Yes. Liked it.
mhm.
Coming down to digital marketing in the food space, Mark. So of course, it is very important to have, let's say, customer reviews as well, right? Going, I mean, it is a journey which is built, which is of course experienced for the new consumer as well, and for the existing customer also. So what are those best techniques to get consumer feedbacks and consumer reviews and improvise on that?
Sure. Well, there's a couple of ways to do that. The more you communicate on social media, so the more you ask questions and engage your customers, the more you're going to get feedback. The other thing is answer all of the comments people make. Just make sure you either like it or say something about it, engage. That's
Sure.
the people that you think, oh boy, they didn't like my product. And it's also the people who did like your product, or maybe even people in between. Just answer everybody. Do it in a way that's caring and loving. Never fight. Don't fight. It doesn't look good and it's not going to help you. If somebody's angry, just say, I'm so sorry you had that experience. What can I do to help you? The other thing is to say, did you ask? Did you ask for help? Did you, or are you just here to complain? That's fine too. My dad used to always say, never argue with a crazy person because no one can tell which is which, right? So you have to be really careful. Like if you start arguing with somebody that's nuts, you're just going to look like an idiot. So I think it's really important for if you're going to get people to comment, you're going to need to have a two-way conversation. And if you do that, you're going to get more people to be engaged with you. Make sense? So,
Absolutely. Bang
yeah.
on point.
Yeah, people want to be listened to. And if they think you're listening, they'll talk.
Right.
Sure.
So coming down to my last question for the today's session. So of course, it is very important to understand who our consumer is in the digital space, since you have got a huge population to target, right? But not everybody is your consumer. So what is that? Maybe if you can give us 2 to 3 points in the sense that how do we define a consumer persona for a food brand who is looking forward to enter the US market?
Well, that can be an expensive project and it can be an easy project. It depends on how strong your intuition is. If you've got a really strong intuition and you understand your brand pretty well, you can pretty much figure it out gut-wise if you're a small company. Typically, what we tell our clients to do is get a sense for an intuition for the company that the person you're trying to talk to, and then talk to them and see where it goes. You're going to learn very quickly in social media whether or not you're making a connection. If you're not making a connection, they're going to tell you right away, nah, it's not working for me. I don't really like this. Listen. You've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them in that proportion. So talk half as much as you listen. If you're listening to your customers, they're going to tell you what they want.
This is a great interpretation. Right, really.
Yeah, right. And then always be looking.
Yeah.
A lot of my clients will say, well, who's doing it really well? Who are the big, who's the guy I gotta go out? I'm like, don't worry about them. They'll figure themselves out. You know what you're looking for, especially with a snack food or any other food, in fact, is you're looking for your share of stomach. A consumer can only eat so much food, right? And we don't want to hurt them. So we don't want to make them eat more than they should, because we don't want obesity. What we want is them to have our product as a part of their diet. And so in order to do that, we need to have a connection to them and have them try our product and induce trial. And that's really what it comes down to. So it's finding those people. Now, youth, you talked about youth. Youth is very important, but they're not brand focused at that age. Yes. What you're really looking for are people in their later 20s through 55 or 60 years old. And the reason you're looking for a person that age is because they want to settle down with a brand. They like things to be more consistent. Now, I'm kind of an odd character because, like with music and that sort of thing, I'm always listening to something new. Books, I'm always reading something new, but most people aren't like that. Yeah. Most people are, I never forget, I was riding one time with a salesperson we had. He was quite a bit older than I was, and we were driving along, and I had a young protege with me as well. And we were driving in the car, and the older guy kept saying, well, I just want to listen to jazz music. And the guy in the back was like, I don't want to listen to that. I want to try something new. Let's try something. We're in LA. We should be listening to really fresh music and all that. And this argument went on. I kept thinking to myself, yeah, that's age. He got to a point in his life where he doesn't want to find something new. He already knows what he wants. And so, so you got to hit the right market, right, for that. Now, with young people, especially young women, they're going to be bouncing around a lot. They haven't really settled down on anything. So they may try you, but you're going to have a flash in the pan with them. It's going to be a very short experience with them. An 18 to 20-year-old young woman, she's going to try you. Oh, this is the hottest new thing. And a month later, it'll be something else. And you've just completely wasted all your money on them. So look for a woman who's 25 to 55, that range. That's what you're looking for. And somebody who's associates with your brand, not just with the food itself, but with the entire picture of the food, the whole community that goes with it. So if you're selling to a yoga market, you want people who do yoga. I mean, it's really important. If you want people who go to spas and get massages and do all that, then you need to find people who have the liquid income to be able to do that. And in other words, if they can't afford to go to a spa, it doesn't make any sense for me to advertise to them because they're not going to buy my product. It won't make any sense. If you're going to see the bar scene, fit the bar scene. Make sure you look good in a nightclub. Makes sense? And make sure you tell that woman she's not going to look fat after she eats your product.
Of course.
Right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's what I do. Yeah.
Awesome. Really, I really enjoyed our conversation, Mark. Really, thank you so much for the responses which you gave. I'm sure this would be really insightful for our viewers.
I
I
hope so.
request to make. So since a lot of our audience is also into food space and looking forward to explore global opportunities. So if you can give a brief idea about, of course you have mentioned about hot operator, but if you can give a brief idea about how hot operator can help them grow and scale, and of course take a start in the US market on a closing note.
Well, on a closing note, the United States is a mature market for food. So in order to break in, you're going to have to get it out into the street and duke it out. I think that the best thing that you can do is find somebody in this country who speaks the language. And when I say language, I don't mean just speaks English, but I mean, is embedded in this industry, in this country. The United States is a very odd duck. So you can't take what you know in India and bring it here. It won't work here. That doesn't happen that way. The other thing to keep in mind, if you're going to work in this country, the middle-aged American male is terrified in our country. They're horribly afraid. They don't know that, and they won't admit it. So they turn that into anger. They turn it into hate speech, and all that comes from someone who's afraid. It's a cry for help. They don't know that that's what they're doing, but that is what they're doing. And so from your standpoint, when you start to position your product, make sure it's easy for a middle-aged white man to say. If they can't say the name, they're not going to order the product.
Yes.
We find this over and over again. The harder something is to say, the less often they're going to buy it. And you want something that just flows off the tongue. So make sure you have a poet, a linguist here in this country, a good copywriter who can help you position your name, help you, sound easy and all that stuff. Now, of course, when I say that it's a general way, that's not everybody is not like that. There are a lot of very intelligent people. In fact, the people I'm talking about are very intelligent. It's just that they don't want to look stupid. And so so make sure that you're working with them to make them feel comfortable buying your product and saying it. If you can do that, you're going to be way ahead of the game. And then make sure you've got a suitcase full of cash, because to get distribution, you're going to have to pay money. I mean, it's just how it works. They make as much money putting you on a shelf as they do selling the product. And a lot of times they don't make any money on the product itself. They just make it on putting the product on the shelf. So you're going to have to do sheltered income. Yeah.
Right.
That's how it works. Mature markets are all like that, right? There's only just, it's a big industry, but there's only so much people can eat. And if you're trying to take something, you have to take something away from someone else. It's not like the person you're going after isn't having enough to eat. It's a matter of, okay, don't eat that, eat this instead. And you're going to have to duke it out to get that to happen. Make sense?
Of course.
Yeah. All right.
Great. All right.
Yeah.
So really, thank you so much once again, and
sure.
Appreciate your time today.
Much. Yeah, thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it. It's fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You have a great day ahead.
Yeah, you too. You make it a great day too. Take care, and thanks for coming
Thank
to
you
work
so much.
today.
Take care.
Yeah, see ya.
See you.